Time. We're going to get started. We have Kenyetta Sims in the house, the Director of Clinical Research at Howard Brown Research. Hi, Kenyetta. How are you today?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you all doing?
I'm doing fabulous. Have you met Nancy before?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so this is your first time, and
Mhm.
Nancy has been working in clinical research for a long time, and she's been an instructor at Clinical Research Fast Track since 2017. And Kenyetta has been in clinical research for a long time. I want to hear your stories for sure. Kenyetta has been in the field a long time, and also an instructor. She comes in and teaches students at Clinical Research Fast Track. I want to welcome you both. We're going to have a conversation over the next 45 minutes. And this is an opportunity for people to learn more about our industry, about what clinical research is and why we love it so much, why we're so passionate about it. What is it about this field that keeps us coming back every day? And I want to kick off with you, Nancy, because I'm going to get to the end of your, or to the middle of your story. You're up for retirement, right? I mean, you've been in you spent 20 years at the Mayo Clinic, and you could retire. And what do? You're still in clinical research. So, Nancy, can you first of all thank you for being here and joining us on this Thursday afternoon? Can you share with us your story of getting into clinical research, what you did at Mayo Clinic, and what you're doing now?
Yeah, thanks, David. Great introduction. I appreciate it. And welcome, Kenyetta. Nice to meet you. I'm really excited to share my clinical research story. I've been very fortunate and blessed to be in a study, in an opportunity to have a career that has been so robust and fulfilling. I started clinical research as an ICU nurse. I was working in the ICU, and one of our oncologists at Mayo Clinic said, "Hey, Nance, can you hang this study drug?" And it really just brought me to, wow, what is this? And how can I get involved? It was a study drug that was treating the adverse events of a chemo drug. And I really saw the impact of that patients really improve in the ICU with this new study drug. And I said, I need to get involved. And so I started looking for research studies within Mayo Clinic and got the opportunity to be a research nurse at Mayo Clinic. That really gave me the opportunity to really understand what a protocol is, what is a study, and how does it work? How do I see visits? And I got to meet patients and really interact with them, see them for maybe a year to 2 years, depending how long they were on the clinical trial, really to understand how we improve their quality of care, but also improve their symptoms and be part of their healthcare, and really improving who they are and how they interact with their families. The biggest takeaway at Mayo Clinic was I was in a cardio hypertrophic study that really involved, and that's when your heart doesn't pump very well. It's a genetic disorder that hits 1 in 500 people. This study drug really changed the lives of individuals that were affected by cardiomyopathy. It really, I remember a gentleman that I was treating, he was a grandfather, and he said, "You know what, Nancy, I can't even go around the grocery store. I can't even push a grocery cart. And since I started this clinical study, I can sit down on the rug and carpet and roll around with my grandchildren, go to the park, and it really has made an impact on my life." And I thought, wow, I've gotten the opportunity to change someone's life and really impact who they are. And all of us in clinical research have that ability to impact and change lives.
Oh my gosh, Nancy, I have goosebumps. I've heard the story before, and I still have goosebumps. And real quickly, and where are you now? You're at Mayo for 20 years. You became a supervisor. I know you're overseeing over 200 trials and 50 people. But then you left. You hit that retirement. You said, "I want more." So what do you do now?
Yeah, so David, I really wanted to do something different and learn a new skill and not be bored at home. And then I wanted to still do clinical research, and I was given the opportunity to start with a company that's started out in Denver, but now we are global and international. We really decentralize clinical trials, and what does that mean? It means we bring and work with pharmaceutical companies to bring research into a person's home. And how we do that and how we facilitate that is we hire nurses who work with sites to make sure that we can execute visits in the home. This really increases their ability to stay on track with the clinical trial, allows people that live 200 miles away from the trial site to still participate and really impact study drugs being able to come to approval. I've been involved in 2 data locks, changing of a disease called Rett's that affects a neurological disease that affects children and women and girls in particular. And it really has allowed them to be able to speak to their families and make a change. So I'm just really happy that I'm still impacting research and impacting how we care for our patients, because as a nurse, that is really dear to my heart.
It's amazing what you're doing. And before the pandemic, what you were doing was so important. And the pandemic hits, and wow, now what you're doing, everybody is trying to get into to really keep the trials going, bring them in people's homes, make it more convenient. That's so exciting. And today, thank you, Kenyetta, for being here. Kenyetta Sims, folks, has been in research for quite a while. She has been running all kinds of studies in Chicago. Kenyetta, thank you again for being here. Can you share with everyone your story into research and what you do now?
So I got into research about 18 years ago. I actually went in and my doctor's office wanted to bring in someone who had a large knowledge base for, at the time, allergy, asthma, and immunology. And I basically was brought in a management capacity to figure out systems that would help centralize within the site how the coordinators worked together and covered each other. So I created a system that allowed them to do that. And while I was shadowing a coordinator, they abruptly left and they said, "Hey, do you want to jump in and help us out?" And I said, "Yeah." And 2 years later, I got certified and I haven't stopped since. So my background is business and teaching. Before I went into business, I was a teacher for many years and I really enjoyed it. I loved it. I learned so much at the first site that I was at. And then I moved on to do multiple sclerosis, relapsing remitting research. And then I relocated to Chicago to work on one of my passions, which was HIV and AIDS. And that's what I've been doing for the past 10 years.
Wow.
And we've had the fortunate pleasure of watching over 8 drugs go to market, some of which were the first infusion drugs within HIV. HIV and AIDS industry is working towards a cure. We've been fortunate enough to do that, as well as prevention studies to prevent folks from becoming infected with HIV. And we primarily work in all kinds of infectious disease. However, we do focus on HIV and AIDS. And so I know it's a difficult barrier to entry into clinical research, but if you keep going and get the proper training and background, it is helpful as a barrier to remove, because you will understand the systems, the workflows, and how the process is done. I know sometimes people are discouraged, but it can be very encouraging. Sometimes it just takes you really getting the knowledge and the education and understanding of it before you can get into the role that you're looking to get into. So we are definitely, or have been, a teaching facility. I have dedicated myself to teaching people how to become clinical research coordinators, as well as all the way to certification. So teaching still remains my passion. And research is definitely what I love to do. I love learning new things every day.
Oh my gosh, Kenyetta, when you're talking, I'm smiling, and it's really sparking so many questions. First of all, it is a hard field to get into, and that's why we created Clinical Research Fast Track, because someone asked a question already about, oh, it's so hard to get in the field. Without the proper training and connections and support, it's very difficult to get in. Our students, and this is such a fun stat I want to give you both, because you're such an important part of our organization. Last year, over 300 of our students started in clinical research, and they were struggling, just like this person who put it in the chat. Can you imagine 300 people just last year alone getting out of our class, walking into this beautiful industry. You also mentioned HIV studies, and I have heard that with this new mRNA technology, they're looking at an HIV vaccine. Kenyetta, is that right? Is that something that you know
Yes.
about?
Yes, there is an HIV vaccine that is out. It is in the early stages of clinical research or clinical trials. And they are hoping to be able to be into phase 3 and hopefully marketing it within the next 10 to 15 years. I know that seems like a long time, but if you think about how far we've come, it really has been a quick process considering that other therapeutic areas or diagnoses have not been able to be resolved that quickly. So just the fact that we're closer makes it exciting. And I really am grateful that we have been able to be involved and contribute data that will help get this vaccine that will prevent HIV approved.
Wow, it's so exciting. And for all of you who are listening, Kenyetta was in business and a teacher. And then Nancy was a nurse. So one's coming from the healthcare side, one's coming from, education and business. And they're both ending up at this really powerful place in high positions now in clinical research. But Nancy, can you share with everyone what we're talking about? Because people hear about research and they're like, oh, are you working in a lab? Or, oh, is bench research or academic research looking in the libraries for books? Like, what's the difference between clinical research? What exactly are we talking about?
So clinical research involves clinical trials in the accrual and application of a new study drug or device. So we are given the opportunity to work with pharmaceuticals, and even I worked in academia at Mayo, even with physicians that want to start up a new idea, or in collaboration with universities to start a new concept and a new process to improve the quality of care or resolve a chronic illness or issue like HIV, which Kenyetta worked with, or any cancer disease, or any cardiology, rheumatology, you name it, something that provides the ability to discover new drug treatments to improve patients' care.
Yeah, and the really distinguishing factor that when we're talking about, we're typically working on these studies that are inhuman. So we're not just theorizing about it. We're not working in the lab. We are now testing them on humans under the FDA. There's a lot of oversight with IRBs, with the FDA. You got to make sure you're doing everything according to all the rules and regulations, but these are human trials. And okay, Kenyetta, now let's get into it. We have a lot that we love about this industry, but why don't you start with one? Like, why? What gets you up every morning? Why are you still doing it after, what did you say, 15, 17, 18 years, you said, and you still love clinical research? Why?
I love clinical research. My number one reason is I learn something new every day. There isn't a day that goes by whether I learn something from a patient, whether I learn something from a protocol I'm reading or an article, or if I'm just researching, trying to find out more information about something or a technique or a device or a drug. So that is the most exciting part to me as someone who considers themselves an eternal learner. I really enjoy learning something new every single day.
Wow, that is such a cool answer. And you never get bored in our field, right? Never,
Absolutely. I
ever.
have never been bored.
Okay, all right, Nancy. Kenyetta put learning every day at the top of her list. You can share that one, but what else? Learning, or what is it about you? Why do you love this field?
I love clinical research because I've always been challenged, and I've always been having the ability to grow within the profession. So I started as a clinical research coordinator as a nurse. I moved into a supervisor role and a management role, and then I moved into an associate director role. So it's always given me the opportunity to grow within the field and given me opportunities and challenges, like Kenyetta has said, to learn new innovation and change, but more importantly, to have that drive and job satisfaction is something that you really have a passion to do. And I've been fortunate to align that with clinical research.
They say life is short, right? And we spend a third of our life at work. Think about that. If a day has 24 hours and you're at work, well, I don't want to say how many hours each of us work, but let's say you're at work 8 hours a day. That's a third of your day, and you're sleeping a third. A third of your day is at work. Imagine if you're not passionate about what you do. That would be tough. But we wake up every day and we're excited. Why? Because we're going to learn something new and we're growing all the time. I heard this recently. I've heard it several times. One of the keys to happiness is that you're making progress. You're moving forward. And Nancy, that's exactly what you said. You're always learning. There's room for advancement. And I want to talk about some fun facts. Kenyetta, do you remember back? Let's just go back like 10 years. Do you remember the field then to now and how much it's grown? Can you talk a little bit about the growth of the industry?
Yes, I remember that 10 years ago, I still had studies that I would complete data or what you call data transfer to triplicates. And if we made mistakes, we had to line through initial and date, sometimes start a new page, but keep the triplicates. And now everything is electronic. All of the data that we collect, we're able to enter through an electronic capturing system and transfer that data to the pharmaceutical company or whatever sponsor is sponsoring the study for the drug or the device that we're working on. And I think that that is amazing. One of the other amazing things that I think is having electronic systems that you can call into, we'll use the interactive web now, and we can call in medications or randomly get devices assigned through that system, as where before we would have envelopes and we would have to open them and know what to give the person next, and or we had to do a lot of faxing. Faxing was definitely something we did a lot of. I see Nancy's laughing. She is familiar. We did a lot of faxing, and no longer now. We can scan and send through email. And when I started in the industry, email was definitely something not widely utilized. And of course, now it's every day, all day, and it's great. I love the instant communication. It promotes patient safety, efficacy for what we're doing. We can get immediate responses, keep our patients healthier and safer, and I love it.
I love that. All right, Nancy, what have you seen change and grow over the last few years?
I think the sheer volume. To me, I'm always amazed by when I first start doing clinical research at Mayo Clinic. I was overseeing maybe 15 trials on my own. And now when I left Mayo Clinic, there was over 200 trials. And now in my new role as a decentralized project manager and associate director, we have over 500 different collaborations, not only in the United States, but with rest of world. So just the ability to mobilize research and work internationally is just, to me, an amazing facet. Another huge change due to COVID and the COVID pandemic is our ability to work remotely. So I think that is a big change. We would see patients face to face. And I think at a site level, all the way to decentralized clinical trials, you are now able to create a reach that is beyond and still build that rapport and credibility with your patients virtually. And to me, that is one of the most fascinating things that we've been able to grow and improve. And to Kenyetta's point, I remember those typical source data forms that we completed, and now we share databases. So what I mean by that is that corporations that we collaborate with, pharmaceuticals and sites, all share a database and a SharePoint that we all access. So there's no more faxing. It's in real time, and it's just improves our quality of care and our efficiency of accruing the data.
Yeah, the growth of the industry has been like exponential, actually. You can go on the website. I encourage everyone to go to clinicaltrials.gov, and you can look at the resources, the maps on there, and they have a graph of the number of registered trials since 2005, and it's an exponential curve. It is phenomenal. Nancy, when we first started working together, I was so excited. There's 30,000 open jobs around the country, 30,000. Well, we just took a peek, and now there's 75,000 openings. There's a real shortage of jobs, and It's because the industry has grown so much. Part of the acceleration is the technology with big data and AI and all of these ways of basically getting to our answers faster, working with people faster. We're able to come to trial quicker and get through trials, well, not that much faster, but we have more trials to work on. There's just more trials. In fact, again, on clinicaltrials.gov, it will show you there's something like 110,000 trials that are going on in the United States today. I mean, the numbers are astounding, but we need help. And that's actually why we exist at Clinical Research Fast Track, is because we're helping more people move into the field. I remember that one person, their question says, can you help me get into the field? And the answer is, of course, because the industry needs qualified, trained people, and most people don't have the proper training. They're very bright. Raise your hand if you are listening. How many of you already have a great education? Maybe you have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, and you love to get in clinical research. Raise those hands if you've got a bachelor's degree, master's degree, or more. Look at all the hands going up, everybody. And many of them are struggling. They can't get a job just yet. But all of you, just with a little extra training and support, you can get into this field that we love so much. I wrote down a couple other things that I love about this field that I want to talk about, and we've touched on them actually. But some of it is just these new cutting edge technologies and therapies. Who wants to talk about what's happening, what you love about something new in the industry? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. One of the things that I love in the industry, I agree with Nancy. I love how everything how we've been able to move to remote and how we can meet patients where they're at. So I have been committed over the last 10 years to eliminate social determinants of health for patients. In a director capacity, obviously, I look at operational flows and how we can operationally help the patients and help them where they are, not necessarily to make sure that the patient can do the study, because everyone can't do every study. But if they can do the study and they are on the study, how we can retain them on the study. I think that that's so important, because long-term data is so important about investigational devices or drugs that patients are taking or using. It's important to have long-term data so that we know what is happening with people as while they're taking drugs and using devices, that it is so important to be able to meet people where they are. And more importantly, to make sure that if there are social determinants of health, if there are issues that are going on in their life and we can help them and be of assistance, that we can do that. And clinical trials has definitely, especially during COVID, moved leaps and bounds in this area in what they can do and what we can do to help patients. And I think that that's so important.
Beautiful. Yeah, this technology where we can, like you said, meet patients where they are, sometimes be on these Zoom type calls, virtual visits, decentralized trials, and working remotely. Wow. All right. The same question to you, Nancy. What are you excited about? Any advancements or technologies? What comes to mind that's so thrilling in this field that you love?
Well, I think about the science and the opportunities in the clinical trials that I've been able to participate in the last year and a half. I've been involved in the COVID studies and the fight against COVID. I've really made an impact in playing with subjects in treatment of COVID and preventing long-term morbidity with COVID, and also preventative measures. I've also loved being involved in new technology. For example, we're looking at RSV in adults and how RSV in adults can be affected. And so looking at a vaccine to treat RSV for individuals greater than 65. So I think the best thing that I can say is that I'm always intrigued by how science continues and how we are able to impact the quality of care we provide, but more importantly, importantly, we've grown with science. And what I mean by that is technology and the IT roadmap to technology has aligned with science. So for example, we're able to use platforms and to treat patients in Europe, and I'm sitting at a desk in Phoenix, Arizona. I mean, to me, that is a fascinating, amazing collaboration that you have with vendors, CROs, pharma, that all work together as a team to make the better quality of life for patients and to make that impact. And us sitting together here on this call, we've been involved in so many drugs, and the journey of that drug development and approval process is quite amazing. In my history of clinical research, I've impacted hepatitis C, and I'll never forget that 10-year journey. But to be able to make that science impact and that change, preventative measures for individuals to increase their longevity of life is an amazing passion that I hold and I'm able to execute every day.
The science and technology advancing is absolutely phenomenal. I was talking with the CEO yesterday of a robotic surgical company, and this isn't to replace surgeons. This is so surgeons have better tools to be more effective in surgery. And they're using these robots right now to help assist with surgeries. You're talking about all these different technologies and advancing science. It's so exciting, but we also have questions, and I want both of you to answer. Nancy, I want you to start. They're asking about remote roles. What are some non-patient facing roles in clinical research? Now, some roles are patient facing when we're working with participants. They're volunteers, so they can be called participants in a trial, research subjects, and these are people who come into the hospitals and doctors' offices, and we see them in those settings or in their house. But what are the remote roles that, in fact, you're a remote role, Nancy? Why don't we start with you for either nurses or non-nurses?
David, there are so many remote roles in clinical research. I would say there's more remote roles than non-remote roles, which is really an amazing ability for us to work from our homes and still make an impact. So from a site level, there's clinical research coordinators that work from home. From an IRB, that's the approval of a clinical trial. You have IRB board members that work remotely, parts of the panel that work remotely. You have, from a sponsor perspective, you have project managers, and there's so many different levels of project managers, all the way to remote monitors that go to the site, and it's done remotely. You can work in project managers for all directors and associates, and it's just endless, David, all the way from site to pharma to CROs to even where I am decentralized. It's just incredible how much advancements we've made remotely.
Yeah, and I actually think it's right. There's more people working remotely in clinical research from their home than probably either at the sites or offices combined. So some people go to offices and are not seeing, or they're not in the clinics with the participants, and they're at an office, but a lot of those office people are now all working from home. Kenyetta, can you share more insights into some of these roles? Nancy touched on broadly on them, but people, I know that listeners are interested. What can I do remotely? What can I do in clinical research besides just being with the participants?
So I definitely agree. Nancy nails it. There are some coordinators that can work remote. You can enter data remotely. You can work on regulatory documents and upkeep of the documentation and the lengthy documentation and regulations that the FDA in this country requires us to keep. You can also work in an auditing remote role, so that you are auditing those files and or auditing the data that is being collected and disseminated. There are also roles. I am a director, so part of my time is remote, part of my time is on site. And so there are multiple roles, I think, at the site level as well as at the at other levels. So clinical research associates can work remote. And again, they can work on regulations, they can work on auditing, checking files that are data, information that's been input into various systems. And I think those are some of the major ones that can be remote, all the way down to specialists that work on contracts, specialists that work on, medical writing, There's so much that you can do within the industry. And as Nancy stated before, that's one of the great things is that there's so much room for growth. I started like Nancy did as a coordinator, and then became a senior coordinator, and then became a manager and a director. So there's definitely always room for growth. And that's only at the site level. So my experience thus far has, I've been at the site level, and I will be moving very shortly next month to another level. So there is definitely room for growth and learning and opportunity to do various remote jobs.
That's so exciting. The amount of growth, the opportunities are endless. I want to shift gears. I want to talk about something that I didn't really think about when I started in this field. And that's you, the people. I didn't know I was going to meet so many wonderful people. This is an industry, and I always call it a team sport. You're always working with teams on these trials. And the people in this industry are phenomenal. This is a shot. All of these people, I think, took our class. These are all some of our students all over the country, a pretty diverse group. And this kind of, I think the diversity actually reflects our classroom. We have people who are from immigrants from all over the world, all races, ethnicities, religions, you name it. It's so much fun. And can we talk about the people you meet in this field? Nancy, go ahead.
It is amazing how you meet different all works of life in clinical research, and it is a small industry. And even though we are large, it's amazing how many times my paths have crossed from Mayo Clinic to now working pharma and industry. You do meet individuals that you've seen and worked with in the past, and you collaborate as teams. David is absolutely right. You work as a team, even when you collaborate at my level with different big pharmas. You work within their team. So in order for me to execute visits for them, I get to really know their team players. So we collaborate on budgets and contracts and what deliverables we need to work together to execute the end results. But I think the best thing is that you really collaborate with such many diverse people. And I have not, and in this new role, I've only worked remote and have only met my team remotely. And it's amazing how I still feel bonded to them. And in this new world of remote, you use your screen time, you use your FaceTime, you really turn your cameras on, and you're still able to build those relationships that you need to move forward as a team.
And the relationships are so important. Kenyetta, I imagine you've met a few people in this industry.
Yes, I've met lots of people in this industry. And as Nancy said, as they transition and they grow as well, and you see them again and you're like, oh, I know you. I've worked with you before. I think that it is amazing how you can connect with people. There are lots of people that I have worked with for years that I never met in person. And through an opportunity where they had a job change, and then I finally meet them in person and I know all about them. I know their whole life, and I know, what they do, what they've been doing, where they're going with their career. It's very exciting to finally meet people. And pre-COVID, when we would have larger meetings, it would be very exciting. And it also, I think that COVID taught us how to work together collaboratively and in a different space. So that has been exciting as well. And I hope that I get to continue to meet more people in person once we do, move towards being in more spaces together. But it's exciting to work with and collaborate. And then not only that, but network, so that you know that you can call someone or you can rely on someone to help you with a process that you may not be as familiar with, because you know that you have a diverse network, and that there may be specialties in LGBTQ health, or within a specific ethnicity, or global majority. So I think that that's really exciting.
It's so exciting, and it's a topic near and dear to my heart. Not just the wonderful people we meet all the time, our students, all of the instructors who come in from around the country who are working at research sites, at pharma, at CROs, at all these different organizations. But now there's such a push to bring more diversity into our field, which to me is thrilling. And our students are from all walks of life. Kenyetta, I know this is a subtopic that you're interested in too. Can you talk about sort of what the industry's, why we need diversity so badly? Why it's so important in our industry, not and in our country as a whole, but specifically in clinical research?
I think it's important to have diversity in clinical research for a couple of things. We know that bodies pretty much work the same, but that certain groups of people typically have certain reactions and different levels of, I don't want to say participation, but they have different levels of something being more susceptible or not susceptible. So I think it's important to have a majority of that. More importantly, it's important to be able to work with people that look like you or come from a background that you come from. And most importantly, culturally, they can relate to what you're going through or what you're saying. As being someone who's been passionate about meeting people where they are, sometimes it's helpful if you can actually understand where they are because you've actually been there, or you know about that particular culture because you are a part of that culture. So I think that that's very important. And it's important to get information about all cultures and all habits because we know all of our habits, whether they be eating, exercising, thinking, learning, affect our well-being. So if we can have people to relate to on a cultural level, then we can collect more information and more accurate data to disseminate about the specific drugs and devices that we are researching in clinical trials.
Yeah, and I think it's true across the industry. So when we're working with a particular neighborhood or community, we want our providers, the doctors, the nurses, the clinical research coordinators, everyone involved to be from that community because that builds trust, that builds connection, and we're going to be more effective enrolling and working with the population because we understand each other. And it used to be that most trials were conducted on middle-aged white men. I think that was like the norm in the 70s, 80s. But what we really want to do is understand that different drugs impact different populations in different ways. They metabolize differently, they digest differently. Yeah, Nancy, can you talk a little bit more about that, sort of the science behind this?
Yeah, I think when you look at a new drug, we metabolize study drugs differently, and it's just not our bodies, but it's the surroundings we live in. So from a cultural diversity perspective, you live different, you work different, you are more accepting of different clinical trials. So I think diversity allows for us to know that application of the drug is safe across countries and internationally and across the United States. That allows us to know that and reassures the patient that it's been tested and quantified on not only just the 40-year-old white male, but actual all sorts of life across the board, because what we eat and what we drink and how we metabolize or how many hours of sleep we take really has a difference on the cultural diversity and how we metabolize study drugs. So it's very important that not only do you do cultural diversity, but also geographical reach, because research that's done remotely across the backside of Montana or in the roots in New York, it can be different kind of cultures that affect the adverse events, which is a sign and symptom of a study drug, and how it affects individuals and their willingness to take the study drug.
Absolutely. So it's so important that we're bringing in more people into our industry from all walks of life, from all communities, around the country, both geographically, ethnically, racially, gender, you name it, sexual orientation, everything, so that we can be more effective as an industry as a whole. And it's something that we're thinking about, that we're focused on, and it just makes us all stronger. There was a softball question. We've been talking so much about remote positions and working as a remote monitor, a data manager, project manager. Kenyetta, what does a clinical research coordinator do?
The question is, what does a clinical research coordinator not do?
Okay, there you go.
So I think that a clinical research coordinator does a lot. And I think that it is definitely something you have to be dedicated to. I think that clinical research coordinators definitely collect data. They work directly with patient facing. They can do everything from collecting data, disseminating data, collecting specimens, completing procedures, whether they be medical procedures or something as simple as a survey. It is a host of tasks that lead to the ultimate goal of collecting information about safety and efficacy of a study drug or device. And it can range from laboratory work all the way to just simply completing documentation, whether that be
Oh no, you're breaking up for me. Can you hear Nancy? Can you hear me?
on paper.
I can hear you, David.
There is a host of things that a clinical research.
Okay.
Can you hear me better now?
Oh, I'm sorry, you broke up, but we just caught the end of basically the clinical research coordinator does everything at the site level to help keep that trial rolling. There is a principal investigator, usually a physician, has oversight, but I always like to say that the PI, the doctor, has all the responsibility, and the clinical research coordinator usually does all the work. And that's what we train in our programs, how to do that role. But then also all other roles flow from the work that happens at the site. So that's sort of where the rubber meets the road in clinical research. We only have a short amount of time. We have 5 minutes left, and we've been talking about so many things we love about this industry. But I want to share one other thing that I don't think it's come up. It's just been implied. I'm going to share this slide. This is a career that actually pays well. And Nancy, I don't know if you know this, but recently we've had a lot of nurses who are coming through our program because it's bedside nursing has been very, very impacted. It's a demanding job. It's been more demanding during COVID, and they want to do something where they have a little more control over their schedule, and they're valued and also getting paid well too. And clinical research is a field that pays well. It really does. Now, everyone starts at the bottom, right? But you can work your way up. Can you talk a little bit, Nancy? You don't have to mention numbers, but about the pay in this industry?
Yeah. Overall, nurses get paid well, but I think any role in clinical research has seen a vast increase in the dollar amount. It's a very competitive field. I can just tell you for myself, I get 30 jobs a day, and they're good jobs. And I think once you get your foot in the door, the reason why I love teaching at Clinical Fast Track is because I've actually hired students from Clinical Fast Track at Mayo Clinic, as well as my current job at PCM Clinical Trials. They really provide you the toolbox to succeed, but by having that entry into the industry, it really allows you to exponentially increase your annual income. I can just tell you, from the day I started in clinical research to now, I've seen over $100,000 increase in my wage. So it really is, as you get into the door as a clinical research coordinator, maybe you're set at maybe $50,000 to $60,000, and then maybe you go to an industry and work CRAs or monitors, you increase that to 100 to 115, and then you can work in the industry within the pharma to be directors and project managers. And project managers currently are making around 160 to 170, working with big pharma and CROs. So your quality and your quality of your salary increase with 401 match and benefits is incredible and exponential as you get more into research and gain those first couple of years. You just need to gain that years of experience to able to open a facet of doors that it will be endless.
Yeah, so I mean, and you've seen this too, Kenyetta, right? The pay just keeps going up. The longer you're in the industry, the more value you bring. Have you noticed that as well?
Oh, absolutely. I think I can agree with Nancy on the same track, as I'm not an RN, but I have definitely seen my salary increase by
All right. And on that note, she was saying how her salary increased. I think you froze, Kenyetta, but the message is very clear. This is such a great industry to get into. We had a few last questions. A foreign medical graduate, can I work in the field? And the answer is yes. We have had hundreds and hundreds of foreign medical graduates go through our program, and they're working at the site level or at some of these remote positions at CROs or with hospitals and other organizations. It's such a great role. People are wondering, how can I learn more? I have one more slide that I can show. Let me share. If you, there's a hiring boom. Yes, now is the time to get into the field. And to get in the field, all you need is training, connections, and support. And that is what we provide. Here is our phone number. No one is there now, but write down this phone number, take a screenshot, 602-883-7944, or you can email us at clinical research, at contact@clinicalresearchfasttrack.com, or visit our website. We have courses coming up February 19th and March 12th. There's still room in both of those courses, but they do fill up. The courses have, Nancy, of late, we've been maxing out on our classes, which is exciting for us, but most exciting for the students in the class, because more and more of them are finding roles in this field than ever before. Kenyetta, you are back. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now. I don't know why my internet wanted to act funny today.
Okay, well, we are out of time, but I just want to say this. Clinical research is an incredible field. We love working in clinical research. And Nancy and Kenyetta, I personally love working with both of you. And it is such an honor and pleasure to have you with us today. Nancy, did you have any last words for the group before we sign off?
I hope all of you enter this industry. It's an industry of opportunity. It's an industry where you'll feel passionate and have job satisfaction. And I encourage all of you to look into Clinical Fast Track and start a new journey of your life and into a new career path.
Beautiful. And Kenyetta, last word to you.
I would love to say ditto to what Nancy said. And I hope that you all do join the course. I totally support Clinical Research Fast Tracks. And I have hired 2 graduates, had 2 interns, and I definitely, in half the time I can train them as a coordinator. It usually takes me 12 months. My Clinical Research Fast Track graduates take about 6 months. And you just have to really give it a chance. There are no guarantees. You make your own guarantees, and you make your vision and your passion of what you want to do and where you want to be. And if you stick to that, you will make it.
Beautiful. And on that beautiful note, we want to say thank you all for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure. Nancy Lizzul Kenyetta Sims, thank you both. Again, happy Valentine's Day to everyone. We love this industry. We hope you can all join it and join us. And we look forward to having you back in the future. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.